Hello! This video is a recording of an interview I did with Anthony Kingsley, who is the head of training of the Alexander Teacher Training School in London. It's the same school where I trained and graduated 11 years ago. My name is Aino Klippel and I live in Finland. I hope you enjoy this video. So maybe we start with a short description of how would you describe what you are doing as an Alexander teacher?
Okay. So myself as an Alexander teacher, my role is to offer the pupil the experience of not reacting to life's stimuli, to life events with disturbance and distortion. That's one sentence, but I could go on for a book. So it's really the prevention of the reaction that causes trouble. The prevention of the habitual patterns that we all accumulate over the years that cause distress. And that distress can be anything along the psychophysical spectrum. It's important to realize that Alexander saw his work as a psychophysical enterprise, and that he couldn't separate mind from body, body from mind. That for Alexander, the self was a psychophysical self and couldn't be divided except with words that were always inadequate. So the problems that people can come with that are a result of habitual reactions can be anything from a pain in the neck to loss of emotional control, or the inability to grieve, or the inability to experience any emotions at all, because we've become deadened or dissociated from our experience. So there can be physiological symptoms or emotional symptoms. The way I understand it, for an Alexander teacher, a symptom is simply a symptom.
How do you position the Alexander technique in the wider field of mind and body practices?
So we are somewhere between and including both education and therapeutics. So is Alexander psychotherapy? Is Alexander education? Yes to both. Yes to one, yes to the other, yes to both. There is an educational component to Alexander because the teacher wants to teach the pupil a new experience, give the pupil a new experience that they can learn something about themselves and their reactions to life stimuli. There is a therapeutic element because the symptom can disappear. A person can get better. There is a therapeutic side, both psychotherapeutically and physiotherapeutically. So yes, there is a wellness component, and there's also a learning component.
Is there something that makes the Alexander technique unique?
Well, I'm obviously biased, and I've chosen Alexander out of many, many other things that I could do. And at the same time, there's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun. The Alexander technique is unique, and it shares many ideas and practices with other universal truths, as it has to, if it's true. I can talk about the unique side of Alexander, and I can talk about what Alexander has in common with other disciplines and procedures. So if I start with what's Alexander got in common with other procedures, well, the pupil, the client, comes with a problem and hopefully resolves it. It may be similar to some aspects of psychotherapy when a person comes with an emotional struggle and the client can manage their emotional world in a healthier way. That a person can work through unresolved emotional dramas. So I could go on that side, but let me just move over rather quickly to the other side. What makes Alexander unique? Alexander isn't just about ideas and philosophies about the importance of stillness and non-reaction. It's not just about the philosophy of mindfulness. It's a technique to actually embody a quality of mindfulness and living in the moment through direct communication, rather than advice, rather than nice, wise words. And for me, it's one of the most powerful direct transmissions of a new experience that I've come across. So the uniqueness of Alexander is in the uniqueness of the direct transmission through the use of self, the condition of the practitioner that communicates a certain quality of being and a certain attitude directly to the pupil, usually through the touch of hands.
So you have been teaching Alexander technique for 35 years or so. What is it that keeps you motivated as a teacher?
Well, I'm very, very, very privileged to work in an area that I love. It's an area of personal transformation. No 2 days are the same. No 2 sessions with the same person are the same. And the privilege is to work with a person at the very depth of their soul, where everything happens, where there's a problem that is asking to be solved. And the Alexander technique is a way of guiding them towards a more full and healthy life. And what could be more satisfying than to work in an area of human evolution, of personal development, of health and well-being, of resolution of problems, both physical and mental? What could be more satisfying to have that privilege of working with a whole variety of people who struggle in some form or other? The other exciting thing for me about the technique is that in order for me to be of any value to anybody, I myself have to be in a certain mind-body condition in order to communicate the essence of the technique. So every day of my working life gives me an opportunity of tuning my own apparatus. And through that tuning, I can also keep on evolving and refining my understanding of the work, my understanding of myself, which is never ending, my understanding of the process. And that side of Alexander, which is my own ongoing evolution, is really inspiring as well. That I have an opportunity, not just of doing an interesting task, but actually participating in the potential for my own and others' evolution and refinement and development. And that can go on forever. There's no limit to the potential for refinement and healing. There's no ceiling.
Mm-hmm. So you still keep learning yourself every day? Every
day, yes, yes, yes. And there's so much left to be explored and understood. And if this Alexander process is anything close to the idea of know thyself, then it's a vast territory. And we probably only reach the first few stages. A lot will remain undiscovered in this territory, unknown and unconscious.
Mm-hmm. I remember when I trained in your school, you had some motto that was about learning from the past and living in the present and being inspired by the future.
I think I wrote that on my website. You've got a good memory. So why learning from the past? Because we learn from the people that went before us, like Alexander and some of the students who became teachers in the first generation, who certainly inspired me, who I met personally. Of course, I didn't meet Alexander personally. And so certainly inspired by the past, yes, but not enslaved to the past. Otherwise, there'd be no evolution. There'd be no development. I'd have to become a carbon copy or a clone of whoever inspired me, whether it was Alexander books or some of the earlier teachers who I came across in the 70s and 80s. So certainly inspired by the past, but not stuck in the past. And of course, the technique allows me to live more fully in the present. And there's also a vision for the future. That's the ongoing side of things. Mm-hmm. The constant potential for more understanding, more learning, more refinement, more open heart work that doesn't stop.
So when you think about your past, from when you started to learn the Alexander technique for the first time, is there something you are still carrying with you that used to be important as a beginner and is still nurturing you?
So my original inspirations, I came across Alexander via a book by Dr. Barlow called The Alexander Principle that I read in the late 70s. And there were a few things in that really inspired me to take it more seriously, to certainly go to have lessons, and quite soon after to want to train. The idea of mind-body unity was very inspiring for me. The idea that the human self, the human organism, was an inseparable whole of thoughts and feelings and sensations, and that bad backs aren't usually just bad backs or muscle problems. They are part of a total tapestry of the way that we are in the world. That I found very inspiring. And I also found inspiring the idea that you could go to someone who can guide you towards more health and to resolve some problems that aren't so accessible with the more physiological approaches, which may solve the physical side of things, but not necessarily the cause. I was very interested in Dr. Barlow's idea of reaction, stimulus and reaction, that actually you can sort out a symptom on a symptom level, like a bad back, you can take an anti-inflammatory and it'll feel better, or a massage, or even an acupuncture needle. But what I found very compelling about the ideas of Alexander in his book was that you can get to the root of the problem, the initial reaction of the mind-body that creates the symptom in the first place. Mm-hmm. What we might call today radical healing. Radical healing, getting to the roots of the problem and not simply helping the symptom, not simply symptom alleviation, but a much more core approach to healing.
And that's still what your work is about, I guess, today.
Oh, today, yes. So today, the inspirations are the same. I find it very satisfying that I'm not just helping the symptom, but when a person can go deeper into the cause of the struggle, the symptom, the problem, then things can be resolved on a much more sustainable level, rather than simply a partial, time-limited level. It doesn't have to repeat itself tomorrow and the next day if I can come to some sort of resolution. And that that is an inspiration still. Yes, very much so.
Let's go towards the future. If you could change something in the Alexander technique or in the community of Alexander teachers, what would you like to see changing in the future?
Ooh. My first thought was, I don't really want to change anybody in the Alexander world. I'd like them to be able to do what they feel is true, and for me to carry on doing what I feel is true. But it wouldn't be totally honest just to leave it at that, because obviously I do feel there's some sort of mission. I do feel that the Alexander world could embrace more the potential for psychophysical health. Sometimes I think that the Alexander technique sells itself a little short and is often seen as a solution for a back problem, a shoulder problem, a neck problem, to help musicians play a bit more easily. And I think we can offer so much more than that. And so if you're saying, how would I like to see the evolution of the Alexander technique? I'd like to see it evolving in the direction that Alexander saw it evolving, which was towards holism, towards more psychophysical understanding of problems, rather than physiological or postural problems alone. I'd like to see the Alexander world thrive and not be ashamed of the terms that we use today for health and healing, not to be shy about describing Alexander as a technique for mindfulness and stress management, a technique that includes emotional healing. I'd like us to be able to talk about these things more openly and not just see ourselves in a more narrow arena. So I would like to see the Alexander world perhaps recognize what a wonderful gift we have to offer.
So you are training teachers. Do you see the next generation understanding the technique in a more holistic way? Is that already what you see in your school?
Well, I can only talk for my school, and it's just one school among many, many schools in the UK and around the world. And I have respect for all different ways of training. And certainly I don't think that our school is the only game in town, not at all. And I can't really speak for other students or teachers who I've come across over the years who teach according to their own truths, which is the only way it should be anyway. Each teacher must teach according to what's true for them. But certainly in our school in London, we do embrace the self, the organism, as a psychophysical organism. We do embrace the potential for emotional healing. We do embrace the idea that Alexander's more than postural shapes and sizes, postural angles. And we see it as a psychophysical journey towards understanding of how we are in life, how we act and react in daily encounters in the world, in the real world. And that it's much more than how to sit and stand and walk with more ease. It's not simply about movement, although it includes movement. It's so much more. It's how we talk to ourselves, how we treat ourselves, how we treat other people. And that wider vision is certainly present and an essential component of our training. And I would hope that other schools would embrace what's true for them. But I'm not privy to all the different ways of teaching the Alexander technique. in the UK and around the world.